Hello, Randall families. This week, as I had mentioned earlier in the week, we have been practicing using the butterfly method. We've used butterfly method to help students better solve addition problems, subtraction problems, compare fractions, and now we've used it to multiply fractions. So this is all review. This is nothing students haven't seen before, especially this type of way to multiply fractions. I'm just adding the word butterfly to it and giving a few more specific steps to help students be proficient in this skill, every time. So as your students will know, many of them did not finish their homework today or their classwork, and so it's got to be taken home as homework, and we had a bunch of whiners today of not wanting to do it. So now they got to do it at home. So since we did have so many take it home, I went ahead and decided to include a video. So with that being said, the first thing you do when multiplying fractions using the butterfly method is you create your wings. So now I have my wings, and I'm also going to add some antennas because butterflies have antennas. Aren't very cute. They're just kind of straight across, but that has a function, and you will see later. All right, so first thing, I'm going to start with my denominator on my left side and my numerator on my right side. Okay, and what I'm going to do with those two digits is I'm going to find the greatest common factor of those two digits. Okay, greatest common factor, your student should know this, but what it is when you think, okay, what numbers when multiplied together get me the product of 4, for example. So I know that 1 is a factor of 4 because 1 times 4 gets me the product of 4. You could list these, but I find it more beneficial to write it as a problem just because it helps you think all those through, and you just know that both 1 and 4 are factors of 4. So those are all the factors of 4. So I'm rooting for the factor 4 to also be a factor of 9 because it's the greater number between the two factor choices I have here. However, as I list my factors, I realize that 9 only has factors of 1, 9, and 3. So the only factor they have in common is 1. So that means that I'm going to divide 9 by 1, which tells me that 9 is going to stay the same. So I'm going to write that digit in its matching spot up here. And 4 divided by 1 is also 4, so that stays the same and goes in its matching spot. So now that I have done the left denominator and the right numerator, I'm going to move on to these two that are in the same wing diagonal space, so to speak, and find those factors. So I'm going to start with my lower number just because it's a lower number and it's going to have less factors. It's going to be easier. So I know that 1 times 7 is 7 because any number times 1 is itself. And that's it. That's all the factors. So again, I'm rooting for 7. And I'm going to think, I could start listing my factors. I could say 1 times 14 gets me 14, but to speed up the process, like students like to do, I could say, okay, do I know any digits when multiplied by 7 that get me 14? And I do. So 7 is a common factor for 1 and 14. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 7 by 7 as well as 14 by 7. And I'm going to put 14 divided by 7, whatever the quotient is, up here in its mirrored spot. So 14 divided by 7 is 2. And 14 divided by 1 is, oh, I already did that one. 7 divided by 7 is 1. All right, and now I have my new equation, 1/4 times 9 over 2. And I'm going to find the product for that. So I'm going to rewrite that down here so I have more space. Now you might notice that, well, wow, she's using like a whole paper for this, and my kid doesn't have that much room on their little peach sheet. So let them use some scrap paper. Just staple it to it, bring it in, staple it here. Okay, use your workspace. I want to see your work because what's happening is even my students who are pretty fluent in this are making silly mistakes because they're not listing their factors. So they're picking like 2 for a common factor of 8 and 16 because they are both divisible by 2. However, the greatest common factor of 8 and 16 is 8. Okay, you could simplify it even more, and you want to do that using this method, and you want to always simplify your fractions in simplest form. Anyway, I digress. Continuing, we're ready to multiply straight across. So 9 times 1 is 9, and 4 times 2 is 8. All right, and you're left with 9 over 8. Again, going back on my soapbox about simplifying, this fraction, students will notice, is an improper fraction because the numerator here is larger than the denominator. So that's saying 8 is how many cookies are in a whole cookie box, so to speak. So little Jimmy over here has eaten 9 cookies. So that means not only has Jimmy eaten his box of cookies, but he's also dipping over into Sally's box. So we need to simplify that to show how many whole somethings or cookie boxes, just for my little example here, that are used. So I'm going to take 9 and divide it by 8. So I'm seeing how many wholes essentially go into 9, because 8 is what makes up our whole. That's what our denominator tells us. So 8 times 1 is as far into 9 as 8 can get, because it can only go in one time, because twice is 16, that's too much. It's bigger than 9, we're not doing that. All right, 8 times 1 is 8. I subtract that from my whole, from what my numerator tells me. And I get 1. So that is 1/8. So 1 and 1/8. One whole box and 1/8 of a box is how much little Jimmy has eaten. Okay, or in this scenario, just 1/4 times 9 over 2 is 1 1/8. 7/4 times 9 over 14 is 1 1/8. Okay, this will be on YouTube, so when they click this link, they can stop, pause, rewind, fast forward. It should really help them. All the problems on their homework can be done this way and should be done this way. I need to see their work. That way, if they're making a mistake on a problem, I can see why, and I can help them. And here's the thing, if they're doing this, there should not be a problem. They should get it. All right, have a good night.